Hello everyone. Today I have come to speak on Samuel Johnson's essay Life of Pope. Life of Pope is compiled in a series of essays titled as Lives of the Poets, which comprises the biographies of almost 52 poets like Life of Milton, Life of Wordsworth or Life of Dryden and many more. But if you consider Life of Pope, it is, as said in Boswell's words, that it is the richest, the most perfect and most beautiful essay written by Johnson. It was published in 1761, and the reason for his perfectness, this accurateness and the fact and figures of Life's Pope is perhaps Johnson's first-hand knowledge, which has been acquired by his hard work and diligence from various sources. He was also well acquainted with other contemporaries of Pope's age. This essay is divided into three parts. In the first part, he discusses the life and career of Pope. In the second part, he discusses the character of Pope. And in the third part, he discusses Pope's achievement in the poetic world. It is basically the poetic genius of Pope which is particularly discussed and which is particularly interesting in this essay. At a very early age, Pope has displayed his characteristic of a poetic genius. He has translated a part of Ovid's Metamorphoses, which is a rare feat at a very tender age. He was also influenced by Dryden, and his work, Ode to Solitude, is an example of his influence by Dryden. He has also translated Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. And when it comes to his writing of pastorals, it has actually established him as a poetic genius. But perhaps if you consider Pope, he is mostly known, in fact he is best known for his satires and mock epic verses, which has established him as the greatest satirist of the age. If you look at his works like Dunciad or Epistles to Arbuthnot or Essays on Criticism, you will see that he actually displays his best qualities of poetic genius in those satires. And if you consider his poetry Rape of the Lock, it is one of the best satires ever written. The mock heroic verse stretches the satire in the lengthy narrative verse. And here you can see that Pope is a kind of very creative. He has invented new forms of images, new events, new sequence of events, and even new mechanisms in the poetry. In fact, he seemed to be very aware of his own poetic genius. And once when Samuel Johnson has asked about poetry to Pope, Pope himself told that if Pope be not a poet, where is poetry to be found? But still, Johnson had found faults in his poetry. He did not consider him that he was perfect in his poetic world. In the first place, he talks that he had no ears for melodies. He cannot sing. Secondly, he mentioned that he was not a lyric poet. So, he lacked the spontaneity, the intensity, the melody and music, which was very much in Shelley and Keats. He in fact lacked his imagination, which was very much visible in the poetry of Wordsworth, where his love for nature knows no bounds. Even though epic and drama is considered as the greatest form of poetry, Still, Pope cannot rise like the ranks of Shakespeare and Milton. In spite of all these flaws, Pope is yet considered as one of the greatest poets of his age. In fact, the contemporaries in the people of the age considered him as one of the most perfect. In fact, they were influenced and they in fact followed him. The age Pope lived in, especially that is the 18th century, demanded wit, refinement, and correctness in the works. And Pope was wittier, he was more refined and more correct in his works, which obviously established him in the standard ranks. In fact, he was the first pay in the second order of poets in English literature. If you consider Samuel Johnson's essay on life of Pope, you will see that he has his own prejudices, yet it is very touching and unsentimental description of the life of Pope, which indeed makes life of Pope a landmark in the biographical writing. Thank you.